Ah, Bucky. We all have our opinions on him. No, not this one. I'm talking about a little squirrel. A creature sown in many media to show off how foresty a forest is. The butt of many nut-themed jokes. Or to show off how magical a princess is by the power of her squirrel chant. Disney itself has gone through many different squirrels in its media, from Merlin and Arthur turning into a couple of them while being sexually harassed by a couple of nutjobs, to even being forced into a terrible 3D world in Enchanted. Yet no squirrel has been as big of a controversy lately as Bucky, the lovable squirrel friend of Kronk in Emperor's New Groove, but more importantly for this video, a Lorcana card that has turned into a hated play at many tables. Lorcana has at the moment of recording 1 full year of sets, which are 4 sets including the first chapter, Floodborn, Into the Inklands and Ursula's Return, and the 5th is on the way in a couple of days, namely the Shimmering Skies. And with this new set, one card is getting a little bit of an errata that goes beyond a few typing mistakes or interpretation. This card is getting a nerf bat so big it would be the punchline in a Your Mama's joke. So why is this card such an issue? Well, let's go over this card. Bucky, Squirrel Squeak Tutor, was a card that was released in the second set, namely Floodborn. It's an emerald, an uncommon card. It's a character card, an ally of a cost of 1, and is inkable, meaning you can use it to summon other cards. Its stats are 1 defense, 1 attack, nothing much impressive here, and he can quest for 1 lore. It is not a very interesting card at itself, but it's an ability that makes him an issue. He has Ward, which makes him untargetable for abilities or cards. And his ability Squeak allows you to make an opponent discard a card each time you play a Floodborn character. Now this wasn't such a big issue during the release, as this was only the second set. However, cards with abilities that triggered for certain types, like villain, princesses, allies, storyborn, or in this case the Floodborn, have a certain capacity to evolve. With each new set that comes out, they have more targets or they can trigger upon more different cards, which is what they didn't take account with Bucky in the end. But even so, what's the big issue? What are we talking about? What are we dealing here? Well, it's because of the play they were used in. It play is so popular and so performant, about 22% of the decks in the Bohem event were Steel Emeralds that play Bucky. In the top 16, 50% were the Bucky Tutor decks. And in the Fort Worth, Texas event, it dominated the top 64, with 46% of the decks having the Bucky play. To understand better why this squirrel dominated, look at the more regular play. I am assuming here that you do know a little bit about the rules.
You know nothing.
But let's go here into Bucky. First of all, in these decks we have 4 Buckys. Alone, the biggest problem is that they can't be targeted by cards like Baboon, Brawl or others that can do a ping damage or remove them due to the fact that they have Ward. Then we add on our Diablo Maleficent Spy. It's a great 1-drop, but that's not specifically why we play. We need to shift Diablo into the Diablo Devoted Herald, a powerhouse of a card, and of course a Floodborn that allows for card draw each time the opponent draws as long as it is exerted. It is evasive, so hitting it would mean necessary for a character with evasive to have it, or spin some ink to be able to ping it some damage. But because of the fact that a shift only demands a discarded card, that means that if you are lucky, you could have a Diablo turn to the card draw for you. Card draw is one of the most essential part of Lorcana, and it's not easy to get in all of the colors. The color of purple is the expert in card draw, so it is a very essential thing to have in many decks. Which is why when you play a card and losing already one to Bucky, means you already have 1 less card, which already cripples your play a lot, and also helps the one playing Bucky, which will be able to draw a lot of cards. Now, to finish this off, we usually add the Beast Tragic Hero, the Robin Hood, both the Beloved Outlaw and its shift Champion of Sherwood, which of course are also Floodborn, and the Champion of Sherwood already shifts in 3. Its strength lays in getting 2 lore for defeating characters that are in your way, and gain 2 lore. Worst case, if he dies, you can still draw another card. So again, card draw is not a problem here. To put it simply, this deck is very simple. You force your opponent to top deck. Top deck meaning you can only play with the card you draw at the start of your turn. The problem is, since your cards are also the way to play other cards, this game becomes very unfair very quickly, and also very annoying. Especially with adding so much card that give you a nice pair of cards each turn, and this allowing yourself to have any answer to any potential counter, and the fact that your enemy will not have any cards to be able to work on. The they have will still be low level and will be destroyed by your other cards. But again, the entire point of this is, but again, Bucky can't be targeted as long as you don't tap him, and you would be dumber than a brain damage hey to do so once you play him. The only answer you have against Bucky would be to have cards like Tinkerbell Giant Fairy that can ping and damage, or other cards specifically that do not target someone in specific. But let me remind you, while cards like Diablo and Beasts are always quite pricey, between 30 and 50 euros, Bucky is a simple and common and is worth less than Gaston Love Pillow in Maurice's bed. So why do you need to ban or nerf Bucky? Well, here is the thing. If they would follow the same rules as Magic the Gathering and Pokemon or other TCGs, that mean that they would only allow the last 4 sets to be allowed in competitive play. So it would mean that Bucky would automatically be removed in set 6. However, this is not the meta of the game, or at least it has not been known if the meta of the game will change this way. Cards like Be Prepared or A Whole New World don't seem to be getting some kind of reprint in set 5, although we cannot know if it might be planned for another set. And if you wonder why Bucky is such a problem, well, it's like I said before, these cards evolve by each set that comes out. It is also a very cheap card, so instead of nerfing the expensive 50 bucks card and risking the ire of a mob of villagers storming the Lorcana castle, it's the Squirrel that gets it. So why not just ban Bucky? Well, because Ravensburger has admitted that they do not wish to ban. This means the only solution is a nerf bat. A nerf bat so big and strong is basically making Bucky unplayable and a whole new card. So let's look at the changes that will somehow go in activation only after the 9th of August. Because why did they wait so long? So let's see what they changed. Other than at first glance, they changed 2 very important things. First of all, they upped his cost from 2 to 3. They removed the ward, which means Bucky no longer has ward, which was one of the biggest problem. In itself, if they would just have removed the ward, Bucky would not be such a big problem. But they even went further. They changed sqeak to whenever you play a Floodborn character, if you used shift to play them, each opponent chooses and discards a card. This means that it's only on shift cards. In itself, it wouldn't be a big problem with Diablo and Robin Hood, but it is a bigger problem since it's only when you shift them and it's no longer just as you play them. And having no ward means Bucky is no longer protected by plot armor. Personally, I don't agree with these. I say a ban would be an easier solution, especially in competitive play. Bucky has evolved in a way that they didn't see happening, and to stop this from happening, again they better step it up or ban. And a ban doesn't mean a card can't be played. There are other formats where Bucky could still be utilized. Free for all, Villain vs Heroes, 2v2 with shareable inked, and Lorcana. So banning it just in constructed, or maybe in multiplayer, would be good enough, instead of having a card with a completely different text. I personally think some cards could be banned in some formats and still be viable in others. As a former Magic player, I have known this to work. I played a lot of Commander. There were some cards that were just banned in Commander. And I know it can be annoying to check a ban list, which I think is the main reason why they didn't do this. It's because they're afraid of having a ban list. However, this entire thing does pose 3 questions. Will the new Bucky be added to set 5 or be available somewhere else? I have myself 2 Bucky League promo cards. I would like to know, will there be another Bucky promo? Or is this one going to become an oddity worth keeping? How are also new players supposed to know about this nerf? I don't think my YouTube is going to reach more than the 12 people that are currently subscribed. Thank you very much. But people will need to hear this, especially new people. If they play, they might start with they might see a Bucky, an old Bucky, and figure this ID themselves, and then seeing the Errata, and it can be very frustrating at this point. The other question is, will there be more nerf bets on other cards that will completely change the card in its way of working down the line because they hadn't thought about how it would be evolving into the next sets? What if they are stuck with banning an expensive or legendary card in the end? How will they deal with this then? So these are a lot of questions I'm asking myself, but I have been rambling on for this for quite some time. I would say like, share, and subscribe. Continue to ramble on in the comments below, and thank you so much for listening.